Alright guys, such a coming here, and I hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. The Esports World Cup just around the corner, but serious drama going in with JP confirming from the OpTic side that Codcaster is completely broken in the patch that they want to play at the World Cup in just a couple of weeks' time. This tournament could be a complete shambles if this isn't resolved quickly. All of the coaches, all of the analysts are unable to even use Codcaster right now because it completely destroys the game. What does that mean for the tournament in just a couple of weeks' time? Will Activision and Tripe be able to fix this issue in time, because they've had quite some time to do so before we get to the present day? Shotzzy talking about Mercules and that whole story behind the scenes to get to OpTic this season. Very much into your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Let's dive right in here. Octane, this is a joke, just to clarify, but I thought I'd talk about it anyway, because who knows? So Octane says, exploring coaching opportunities for the 2026 CDL year, hit me up. Now, on stream, he was joking around. He's pretty happy where he is. But, okay, if I'm a team out there and I hit, let's say I'm Falcons. Okay, Falcons have got Clay. Let's say I'm another Saudi team and I'm coming into the league for the first time. I don't know if this is actually happening. We'll see after the World Cup maybe, but there have been rumours that other Saudi teams are looking to get involved. And I say, look, Sam, I got a serious bag for you to come and coach this team. What does he say? I don't know. Like, money talks. I don't expect that Octane's going to go anywhere. There's so many reasons why I think he's happy with what he's currently doing, but just something to keep in mind. I think Octane would be a good coach. I think that's what I'm trying to say, and as a result, it's something at least to keep in the back of your mind. Now, Octane also said this, again, some good impression farming. After listening to what he said back, I agree with almost everything Maven said. I don't know if we put champs above every other event until OpTic proves it at EWC. So, you know, Octane's, let's say, flirting with fire at this point. We know that Maven made some pretty controversial statements over the last few days. Maybe some of them were reasonable, some of them probably less so, and Octane's like, oh yeah, absolutely, Maven, like, you're the man. Now, the question, really, the Maven drama came because Jacob Hale did a tweet to say who had the best season. Was it FaZe? Was it Thieves? Was it OpTic? And Nameless said, it depends what happens at the World Cup. And then Maven came out with his, you know, he tweeted a lot and he talked on the stream a lot, but the crux of the idea was that yes, Champs is the most important event, but it doesn't disregard what's happened for the rest of the season, and the World Cup is also an important tournament too. Maven doesn't even think that EWC is that important. His point is that Champs isn't as important as people want to believe that it is, but also it depends on the year, maybe, right? Maven made the comment like that OpTic fans will tell him that a champs win is worth 45 major wins. You know, like, what is the equivalency? It's kind of tough to say. Obviously, aBeZy has his perspective, because of course he would, and I think you can predict in advance what aBeZy's perspective is going to be. He says this, problem is simple really, people are equating the pre-CDL champs, 2013 to 19, to the CDL champs. They're just not the same events that they used to be. In comparison to modern day events, they're actually much more similar. Realistically, CDL champs is really CDL playoffs, which is actually what it was called back in the first year. This was the admittedly disgusting brackets that we had in the first year of the CDL. Now, initially this was meant to only be an 8-team tournament, but because that league went online that year, they decided to allow all the 12 teams to be there. So the bottom 4 teams got to play anyway. They started in losers. I mean, like, this bracket is shocking, right? Because they wanted to give a big advantage to the number 1 and the number 2 seeds. Fair enough, but giving them a 2-round bye so that FaZe had to win, you know, Dallas had to win 1, 2, 3 series to win the whole thing was a bit of a shambles, especially when the championship weekend for the top 4 was played in a totally separate weekend. So, yeah, it was a messy one, but it was the first year of the league, and they called it the playoffs, and that's effectively what it still is. Champs nowadays is still champs. It's still the biggest tournament of the year. It's still the World Championship, albeit with not the same trophy that it used to be back in the day. But it is effectively the playoffs. You go from 12 teams down to 8, and then you see what happens from there. Now, back in the day, we used to have both, right? So if you guys were watching 2019 and before, there used to be the playoffs. The season playoffs happened in Miami in 2019. E United won. That was 8 teams down to 1. And The next tournament was Champs with 32 teams. I mean, look at this. This is your, what, 20, we've got Prophecy Denial, 2015 Call of Duty World Championship, yeah, Revenge. So, yeah, 2015 COD Championship, you've got 8 groups of 4 teams. That's how it was. The top 2 teams in the group would go through, and then there would be a banger 16-team double elimination bracket. Now, there's 2 ways to look at this, because obviously in what was considered the World Championship with 32 teams, it was typically just playoffs with all the other pro teams and then 16 amateur teams. Usually, the teams that won or did very well at the playoffs just a couple of weeks before would then do the same thing at Champs a couple of weeks later, because it was effectively the best teams again, but with loads of other teams. And as a result, loads of these matches were particularly one-sided, right? Like in group play, you would have teams, some of the amateur teams getting absolutely slammed, but it was a cooler tournament because it had everyone there. And I mean, look at this bracket, right? A 16-team double elim bracket. We don't get this type of stuff anymore, unfortunately, and it would be really cool if we did. So I think that's abeZy's point, really, is like, he believes it's more impressive to win this than it is to win Champs nowadays. I'm not really so convinced. I think it's a better tournament with more teams, but is it easier to win with, you know, an additional 24 teams that aren't as good as the top 8 that we have nowadays anyway? I'm not so sure. So, look, abeZy is going to make the point that back in the day, effectively, the World Championships used to matter more, and I mean, obviously he will say that because he won the World Championships before the format changed, but are you going to say that, you know, Silly's ring for Evil Geniuses back in 2018 is worth more than Shotzzy's ring that he won this year? Like, you know, it doesn't really, like, you know, it's a ring at the end of the day. I can get the argument if it's online versus LAN, but I can't really see the argument too far beyond that. So that was the talk anyway. You know, do abeZy's 2 rings mean more than Shotzzy's 3 rings? Like, it's a debate that's going to be had. I don't really buy it personally, but intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below. This was just to look at that, by the way. So the 2019 CDL season, this was the World Championship when they won. I mean, that they also won the previous tournament as well too, and this was the format that year. So we had the World Championship at the end of the year in August, and then they had what they called the finals, right? So yeah, it wasn't the playoffs, but it was effectively the playoffs from the regular season that happened in Miami. And then we had Champs shortly after that, and E United won both tournaments. So yeah, intrigued to your thoughts in the comments as ever. abeZy's, you know, you can't stop this guy. Let's talk about some of the other drama though, because the God League say, thanks to all of our great sponsors. I thought this is a funny tweet. Thanks to our amazing sponsors. I'm like, you know, is this it? Is this what we got, right? We got Scuff, we got Monster, which joined like halfway through the season, and then the Esports World Cup. Like, we got nothing else than that. That was it, lads. So anyway, I thought that was pretty funny. But they say, thanks to the amazing season, be back next year. And of course, the World Cup sponsoring the COD League, effectively. But it's not part, the World Cup, of the COD League programme precisely. And that's why things get pretty interesting. So Shotzzy was on stream last night, and so was JP. So JP was talking about a few things, obviously the way that things went to the World Championship, but also prep for the World Cup, because I think it's pretty much today that the teams are starting to get into practice again. Couple of weeks of practice, then they go to Riyadh and try and win their share of $1.8 million, which is just $200,000 shy of what they're playing for at the World Championship, which was $2 million total prize pool. But yeah, so JP says, Codcaster's cooked, and we heard this talked about the other day, that they're trying to play on the new patch. That's what they're trying to do, but Codcaster is still broken, and as a result, JP says that it's simply not possible to even watch in Codcaster. If you put Codcaster on and you're trying to watch it from that POV as an analyst, a coach, whatever, you will get scan and repair, your game will crash. That is the primary issue. So instead, they're going to have to watch via spectator mode. But it's like, okay, yeah, that affects the coaches. But if Codcaster is broken and unusable, then how do we watch the matches at the World Cup in a couple of weeks? That is a question.
This new Codcaster thing. Apparently, chat. Okay, apparently, people can't watch in Codcaster and Hardpoint right now. So, like tomorrow when we start, or I guess teams today when they start, all the coaches have to be in regular spectator. Because if you go into Codcaster, you get like scan or something. You think pros still take it seriously? I think they take it seriously to an extent, but not anywhere close to champs. That's the problem. It's like we've kind of built this season, and it's like, you know, then we have champs and it ends, and everyone's like, you know, that was the climax, the cultivating moment, whatever you want to call it. And then you have like this other tournament that kind of just out there, but is like the icing on the cake, and that's EWC. I don't know what I would compare it to, because I think it's like, some people are saying X Games, but I feel like X Games is like, that was big, but there was no prize pool for it. So like, yeah, sure, it's a gold medal, and I think obviously it's cool to have a gold medal. But this, I feel like, is more similar to MLG World Finals from AW, because it was the last tournament. It was still a big prize pool, but it wasn't champs. You see what I'm saying? That's what I like.
Bro, I'm gonna be honest, chat. I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be like, genuinely, you guys are gonna think this is funny. You guys actually might think it's funny. I'm actually so weird for this, but like, low key, deep down, when we're out of the tournament, and I was watching Mace play like on Toronto or whatever, I was saying to myself, this guy's not good. Like, trying to convince myself, like, I don't want to make another fucking change because I already know what the fuck's gonna be happening. Like, I was dead ass saying that shit to myself. Like, ain't no way this guy's this good, right? Woola. And then map after map, like, holy shit. And I remember I was like, brother, surely, like, it's just luck, right? Like, woola. Next thing you know, he just was consistent the entire tournament. And I was like, shit. I was a watch. I actually was. What rank? Oh, Erie. You're talking about what rank am I? A-watching is criminal? Dude, it is. Trust me, I'm actually weird for that. You guys can call me a freak. I'm not gonna lie. That is some freak shit. I never do that. But I was doing it for my own sake, bro. Like, I literally was doing it for my own sake. I swear to God I was. Like, I did not want to make a team change. I literally was like, it's so weird. It's so cringe thinking about it. Like, I'm literally trying to convince myself, like, you guys not good, so we don't make a team change. That is like some weird shit. Trust me.
Not exactly sure what the World Cup are intending to do about this, because couple solutions. One solution is you actually play on a very old patch update again, but if you are going to do that, you've got to make that decision right about now, because otherwise the pros are going to play on a new patch update with new control spawns and all this for a couple of weeks going into a tournament where they might be ended up playing a very different game. I also was hoping that the Esports World Cup would say, okay, yeah, you're playing Fringe, guys. Like, we are going to play Fringe Hardpoint and Fringe Search and Destroy, and just see how it goes. Like, I don't know if they're going to do that. It doesn't seem like they are, because as I say, the pros are getting back into practice today. They've got to be informed pretty much now what game they're actually going to be playing in a couple of weeks' time. That would probably be a good idea. The other option is that the World Cup go and speak to Treyarch and say, hey, you've got to fix this. But I don't know, first of all, is that going to happen? Because presumably the CDL tried to have that conversation a while ago before the World Championship, and it never happened, so they played on an old patch. And also the Esports World Cup are not the CDL. They're simply another tournament organizer that's had permission to host the event. They're not directly connected. Like, if the CDL can't go to their own developers, of which are part of all the same program, it's all under the Activision, Microsoft as it is now umbrella, if they can't go and get this fixed, then good luck to the people at the World Cup trying to have that conversation, because they're going to have to go through the CDL to have that convo, and the CDL people might be like, yeah, well, you know, we asked them, right? Like, we tried, and that was going to be about it. So I don't really know what this means. I don't know if the CDL are basically sitting there saying, oh, well, you know, you guys crack on, have fun with that. But I don't know what it's going to look like from a viewer perspective, right? Because as JP says, things could be kind of cooked. There's also a debate how much this matters, how serious the teams have taken it. JP says, like, it's obviously taken seriously. I think this year they'll take it more serious than they did last year, and I think next year they'll take it more serious than they did this year. I just think that's how it's going to go year on year. At the end of the day, if you win this tournament, you win 600 grand. So, you know, it's worth trying for, I suppose. And I think, yeah, it's obviously not champs, but the Esports World Cup is a bit of a special tournament. We'll see how it goes in due course. And just that other clip that I was mentioning it for Shotzzy on Mercules, thought it was a hilarious clip, really, when he didn't want to make a change. Honestly, tippable from Hector, from Zinni, and from those guys to effectively force Shotzzy and the team to make it a change because, you know, after this whole saga this season, maybe let's not make Shotzzy responsible for roster moves any longer. But very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.